Hi, my dear Astro family. Here is the aspect of the week I would like to discuss with you, and that's going to be Chiron in Aries going direct. That's going to be taking place on the 26th or the 27th of December, depending on where you are. Europe, most likely, it's going to be the 27th, and in some parts of the US, it would be on the 26th of December. So I wanted to, I was baffled which aspect to choose because we've got quite big ones this week. We've got Jupiter stationing direct, we've got Venus going into the sign of Sagittarius. But I picked Chiron to talk about because I feel like Christmas and New Year's Eve is often for us an element of reflection, and we want to be loads of us, are singles, for example, and so forth. So we tend to be most likely talking down on ourselves. So that's the reason why I picked Chiron to speak about. Two things I would like to mention. If you would like to get more of a detailed weekly forecasts, then you can sign up on my YouTube channel, and then you will be getting one or two webinar a month. And also you are going to be getting weekly forecasts as well, where I give you a detailed description of the week energies ahead. The other announcement I would like to make is that there is a flash sale going on. It's only going to be 2 days, 2.5 days, 24th, 25th, and the 26th of December. This is how I would like to show you my gratitude to support the channel, for supporting the channel all year long. So I've decided to put everything on 50% discount, including readings, courses, webinars. So I hope you grab your opportunity to study astrology with me or to get personal guidance from me. Let's get going with Chiron. I mean, we can talk a lot about Chiron. So, firstly, I would like to mention to you what Chiron is. I'm going to give you some keywords, basically. Chiron is half an animal, half a human. So, on one hand, it's going to be very important to embrace both the human consciousness and the animal instincts. The animal instinct is something to do with survival and self preservation, especially in the sign of Aries, which is most likely much more to do with the animal instincts. So, this is telling us that we have got the right to exist, we have got the right to become a winner, we have the right to achieve something in our lives. And this is encouraging to notice that you have got all the power and strength you need to be able to achieve the best version of yourself. Chiron was the son of Saturn and a woman called Phileria. And the woman asked the gods to take his son away as she could not accept how ugly her child was. So, one of the key words that is connected with Chiron is rejection, not being accepted. Typically, Chiron position in our chart can talk to us about mother issues. So, in the sign of Aries, and we all aware that Chiron's major keyword is something to do with the wounds. But I would like to mention that there are two types of wounds, actually. We've got the primary wounds, and we have got the wounds that we receive as an adult. The primary wounds are very much connected to the wounds that we gain as a child. Aries is the first 18 months of our life. So often, this Chiron retrograde or stationary period could be a reflection of your childhood traumas, such as imagine that unfortunately mom rejected you in a way that she stopped breastfeeding you. However, you needed more. We're going to speak about this because in psychology, this is called object relation. So I'm going to come back onto that. So this is one, and then the story goes on with Chiron. So Apollo and Pallas Athene decided to raise him. They taught him art, music, medicine, and also clairvoyance as well. So some of the keywords that comes with Chiron is acceptance, wounds, trauma, diseases, but also gifts, because he had an eternal pain, but he was able to heal others. He figured out his life mission that he has got the gift to be able to heal others from their own wounds. He had a holistic approach, so often Chiron represents that. But the negative side is whether we are going to be playing the role of the victim. Are we going to be suffering from these primary wounds, or are we going to be able to bury them? Chiron can represent shamanism, pain, but also this is a teacher archetype as well. So he was teaching Asclepius and Hygiea as well for the art of medicine. He became the mentor of those. So maybe one of the topic that might come up with Chiron in Aries is that what area of life do you need the wisdom of other people? Do you need a mentor? Do you need someone to tell you which direction to go? Remember that Aries is always going to be about winning, and we want to come out as a winner in the Aries cusp of our chart. But when we feel defeated or just deflated, then unfortunately you are going to be suffering from your own pain. Chiron is pretty much a bridge between Jupiter and Saturn and Uranus. So if you start thinking about that, Saturn is the past and Uranus is the future. So it's a transition from moving from the past towards the future. This is also telling you that something needs to be left behind. Often we all live in denial. By the way, Chiron can talk to us about domestication of animals as well, and some type of um, animal welfare or animal healing with animals as well. Uh, Chiron tells you that you have got wisdom at your hands. He was the keeper of ancient routines. And by the way, Chiron also represents refugees as well. Very interesting that Chiron spends the most amount of time in Aries. That's approximately about 8 years, while it only spends 2 years in the sign of Libra. Of course, because Aries represents our primary wounds. So there is loads of healing to do there. I mean, altogether, 21% of um, the entire orbit of Chiron, he spends it in the sign of Aries because Chiron realized that the healing starts within ourselves. We cannot change others. We're going to have to change first. And that would be really, really important. I would also say that the fact that Chiron is the bridge between Saturn and Uranus, that would talk to you about the bridge between your personal, but also your worldly experiences as well. So the internal and the external experiences. So ask yourself the question whether you are expecting success to come through others, or are you expecting that by doing the right thing, such as moving forward, such as initiating something, such as having the courage to say no to others, or to say that, you know what, I've got the right to exist. This is all Chiron in the sign of Aries. Chiron also represents herbology as well. Of course, it's something to do with healing, and we can put some certain type of herbs on our wounds. So I feel like Chiron often represents something to do with remedies as well. I tend to call Chiron as a great vocational indicator also. Wherever it is in your chart, basically it gives you the opportunity to succeed with that house position. So I've got Chiron in the third house. I've always had issues with communicating with people. There were times when I did not want to speak, or because I was afraid of saying the wrong things, or I was afraid that I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough with words. And I've overcome this. And now look at me, I'm on YouTube. I've got a decent amount of followers. I speak to you guys. Yes, do I get agitated or a little bit frustrated if someone is trying to criticize me? Yes, I do. I have to admit that. So I haven't managed to master my Chiron position really well, but This is a process. Chiron has got a 50-year old. It might take actually a good 50 years to overcome your Chironian pains. So the two types of wound I was talking about. So one is that is connected to you as a primary wound and that you receive as a child. And then you've got the wounds that you receive as an adult. So the primary wounds are the result of a violation, for example, in early life that resulted in a feeling of non-being or no right to exist, such as I said, mommy decided not to breastfeed you anymore. Mommy decided to leave you, or daddy decided to leave you as well. And then what it leads to is an element of loneliness, frustration, betrayal, isolation, or just feeling bad somehow. Fear, and another major keyword with Chiron is shame. And all these can lead to element of addictions. Addictions are powerful because they can help people avoid feelings of not being. So you might not have noticed how much Chiron has got to do with addictions on loneliness, fear and shame as well. But surely these keywords are really represented by Chiron. So when you look at your own natal chart, uh, whenever Chiron is, it's a psychological invitation to turn inwards, to understand our greatest pain. But also, that's the position where you can heal yourself as well. Now, Chiron went retrograde over 5 months ago. So that happened around the 23rd of July on 19-degree Aries. And currently it's turning direct. So on the 26th of December, it is stationary on 15-degree, 27 minutes of Aries. So I would see whether you have got any planets between 15 to 19 degree of the cardinal signs. Cardinal signs are Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn. There is something to heal there. It is definitely asking you to look at whether you are doing the same self-defeating patterns. So Freud called it as the repetition compulsion. Repetition compulsion, uh, it involves repeating physical and emotional painful situations that happen to you as a in the past, for example, in your childhood. So we're going to be reliving these past traumas in the current state of your life in different forms. So I'm going to give you an example. Those kids who had a violent childhood are more likely to experience violence in their adulthood as well. So that's what we call in psychology as the repetition compulsion. Um, I mean, I would be able to talk about this quite a lot. It could show up in, well, I think Freud differentiated seven types of it. So one would be something to do with detachment. So that would be something to do with a detachment or the inability to fully engage with feelings or to be able to express feelings. But then we have got the familiarity as well. Maybe you were grown up in a distant family, and then you might be looking for a partner who is also distant in relationship, or it could be self-hatred, and you might feel that you receive some type of mistreatment in your life, or it could talk to you about abandonment. And then you are clinging to relationships. So you might become possessive with that because you're trying to avoid more rejection in your relationships. Then we've got the triggers of past emotions. And then we become angry as an adult. And that comes from the fact that you feel that you were neglected somehow. Then we have got the fear motivated behavior, which is sexual abuse in their childhood that leads to become a prostitute, for example. And a prostitution is very much a way to control the opposite sex so that you don't become a victim anymore. So ask yourself the question, what is behind the trauma with your Chiron? And the trauma with in the sign of Aries is connected to courage, the courage of heart, or being courageous, being brave, but also it can represent that I'm scared to get going, I'm scared to move forward. Also, it can be connected to sexuality as well, by the way. So it's time to work on our wounds. Have you attended your wounds yet? What stops you from being strong to move forward, to go ahead in your life? What stops you from achieving something in life? What hurts you the most? Aries is about strength, but also blossoming. Blossoming is because this is the beginning of the spring season. So Mars wants to be seen as the best version of themselves. That's why they compete with others all the time. And when they win a competition, then they feel really good about something. So Chiron, as I said, it's always about an inner mirror. And now it is the last 5.5 months was more to do with reflection. It's going direct now. So whatever you have healed, or you actually started the process, it says, you know what, let's put the pain aside. Let's get going forward with our life. And then if you need a mentor, a teacher, then listen to them and maybe take their advice if you can align with that. It's very interesting, by the way, that uh, the full moon happens on the very same day in the sign of Cancer. And that could represent getting stuck in the past as well. And in that full moon chart, of course, Chiron is stationary. So this might be telling you that, you know what, okay, we are dwelling in a little bit of a pain for a couple of more days, but how long are you going to be blaming others? Um, and when are you going to be taking the driving wheel back in your own hands rather than allowing others to drive the car for you? I think this is some of the major message here. Also, very interesting, by the way, that Chiron went retrograde on the degree where the upcoming solar eclipse is going to be happening in 2024. So our pain is going to get highlighted. By the way, Chiron went into the shadow zone on March 29, 23, and it's only going to be leaving the shadow zone on April 18, 2024. Also, so this is a longer process, you see. It's a good 1.5 years. It's hovering through certain elements of the points in our chart between 15 to 19 degree. And the upcoming solar eclipse is basically just happening a couple of days after the shadow period ended. So this is definitely a big one. So something that might have started going down um, um, in March, for example, between March and July, I would say, that gets highlighted for you um, most likely between now and April 18th. Okay, now, just to give you a couple of other ideas, because it really depends on where it is placed in your natal chart. So, for example, imagine that it happens in your sixth house, and then you want to start a new health regime. That could be a brilliant time. If it's in your seventh house, then it's something going to be in regards to relationship. For example, it is happening in my second house. So, where are the primary wounds coming from when it comes to finances? So, this is how you will be reading this together. Chiron will be in the sign of Aries until 2027. And Aries is so much to do with I am. It's your identity. It's your will to exist. Chiron, by the way, went into the sign of Aries in 2018. So you can see that this is a good 8.5 year window, what we have got to somehow heal ourselves. So often what might come up as a question is that does my existence really matter to anyone? Because this is opposing Libra as well. Often this is a relationship issue, what comes with it. So do I matter to anyone? You can feel a little bit lonely. You might feel somehow outcasted. You might feel like a failure. Um, and then the stationary position, which is going to be a good 5 day on the very same degree before actually Chiron starts moving forward, is a reminder that you have to do something around it. The next 5, 6, 7 days could be quite melancholic for plenty of people because we might not know how to move forward from our wounds. Often what happens is in Chiron and Aries that we feel ugly and we just want that ugliness not to be a part of ourselves. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to end up at the plastic surgeon. We're going to try fix things. We try to fix something externally, but we do not do anything internally. So you might go and get some fillers and eyebrow lift and Botox or face threads. Uh, but you still don't get what you desire. And then often what happens is that we reject the wounds with Chiron as well. We look at them and then we say, oh no, that's not my wound. So we move on. And then we do not want to deal with it. That's where the denial comes from. So are you going to be allowing the pain or the wounds to overpower you? Who is stronger, you or the pain? This could be some of the message with Chiron going stationary direct in the sign of Aries. Listen, the wounds never go away. They lurking around in our subconscious and they just go deeper and deeper and deeper. And the deeper it goes, the harder to get rid of them. So at least think about your wounds and let's get going with them. I think it is asking you to start living. Let's say if it happens in your five or the ninth house, then enjoy life a little bit more. Often Chiron position, by the way, also shows some elements of unfinished business as well. And then we might be obviously repeating the same patterns because we are meant to be finishing up something. So you have got something to finish up, for example, in the sign of Aries, especially if you are above age 50. The reason why, because it means that you have experienced a couple, this is your second Chiron in Aries transit, for example. So compare what was going on. I could talk about Chiron quite a lot, but I also put this course on discount as well. I made 3 lectures on Chiron. So surely this might be something that that might be interesting for plenty of you. So what else I wanted to mention? So I mentioned Chiron orbiting between Saturn, which is very much the very last visible planet, and Uranus, which is the first personal planet. So that could talk to us about our personal experience versus the collective experience. So Chiron in the sign of Aries on a collective level, it would talk to us about that we only gonna be moving forward with our lives when we stop looking at the past or when we are not so attached to the past. Uh, you know, just to give you an example, and again, I'm not going to say that those were better times or those were not good times. So I'm impartial. But I remember that my grandma used to tell me, oh, it was so much better when there was communism and so forth. So this is the type of sentences what we might be doing is that we somehow get stuck uh, in the past. Chiron is here to break something and then to kind of put it together again. So that's how Chiron might be connected to Virgo. Some people, by the way, say that Chiron rules Virgo, and some people claims that Chiron would be ruling Sagittarius, obviously because Sagittarius is also half an animal and half a human. So whichever it is, but something needs to be cracked open and then look from the inside out. So the major message in Chiron in Aries is that we have got identity wounds, and you have to identify them. Guys, this was my aspect of the week analysis. So start thinking about, or just do some reaffirmation that you are somebody. You are somebody's cup of tea, for example, that you are good enough and you don't need to prove yourself. Um, you can be the true, authentic yourself. You don't need to fit in. You don't need to be liked by everyone. That's you, that's your nature. So feel free to express it. You don't need to do copycat at all times. You don't need to follow certain type of examples and so forth, because your own example can be followed as well by others. You might become the role model of someone else. Just look out who wants to be, who wants to learn from you, basically. Or do you hurt yourself physically, emotionally, psychologically? Hurting yourself physically is, for example, that you are having too much alcohol, and then eventually your body is going to shut down. Because this is the way how we want to numb our pain. Maybe it's connected to that you haven't achieved anything yet, and then you are afraid that you're going to fall into oblivion. You might be afraid that you have no money, and we all need money to do something, and that's not entirely true. So Chiron going through my second house is that maybe I believe that I need to be buying love, or I'm only going to be someone when I put on Gucci or Balenciaga or all these type of things. And that's not entirely true. These are the type of wounds we all have to somehow heal now. Thank you, everyone. I would like to wish you a beautiful Christmas. I hope you're gonna have a great new year. Let's the Christmas bring you some joy, happiness, great food, but most likely the healing of your inner child. Thank you. Have a good one. Bye bye.